Good morning, everyone. My name is Stan Ivankovic. I lead up the sales and consulting for the travel sector and the real estate sector at Environics Analytics. Thank you for attending today's session. I'm very excited about this session. I know that a number of you are very interested in this session for a number of reasons, but also we've got a lot of folks from the Caribbean who are quite proud of their heritage or have close connections to the Caribbean or have traveled to the Caribbean, so this one is near and dear to a lot of people. I want to really take this moment to introduce our speaker today. I want you to welcome a very visionary leader, Eusi Skeete. He's a director for Canada at Barbados Tourism. He comes with over 30 years of experience in hospitality and destination branding. Eusi has redefined how Barbados connects with travelers and visitors from around the world. His strategic approach blends data-driven insights with powerful storytelling, earning him accolades from industry peers as well as organizations alike. Eusi is not only a decorated scholar and recipient of the Caribbean Tourism Organization's prestigious Jerry Award, but also a passionate mentor and vice chair of the CTO Foundation Board, where he champions the next generation of Caribbean tourism professionals. Today, he brings his deep expertise, global perspective, and infectious enthusiasm to the stage. Get ready to be inspired by a true ambassador of innovation in tourism, Eusi Skeete.
Thank you, Stan. Wow, no pressure. Good morning. Okay, we're going to try this again because now officially we're in Barbados. So good morning. Good morning. That's what I want to hear. It's certainly a pleasure to be here with all of you today. It's very exciting to be here for the Environics Analytics Conference. Barbados has had a long and storied history working with Environics, and I think today is really the true display of the benefits of how Barbados has been able to leverage all that we have been able to gather from the insights from Environics to be able to help chart us on a new path. For me, things were a little bit different, but before I jump into all that we have to share this morning, how many of you have been to Barbados? Okay, so not enough of you, so I need to do a lot more. So Barbados really is this very immersive destination in the Caribbean. And I think quite often when we think of the Caribbean, we think, oh, the Caribbean is all the same. Everyone, goes there for sun, sea, and sand. And I want to dispel that myth today, that you've truly not been to the Caribbean. I know there's some Caribbean people in the room who will probably run me off the stage, but you've not truly been to the Caribbean until you've been to Barbados. Barbados is that little gem in the Caribbean that sits outside the hurricane belt, which means you can come all year round and immerse yourself into all that the island has to offer. You're not trapped behind the walls of a hotel. You can actually go out, immerse yourself into the culture, meet the people, try the amazing cuisine. It really is an island that offers something for everyone. I always say when you go to Barbados, it's like you take a vacation and you never ever want to give it back. More importantly, because we're the birthplace of rum, you have to taste your way around the island. Some amazing distilleries. Mount Gay rum is the world's oldest rum, and it's been in existence since 1703. So if you come to the island, you must go experience that as well. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring you any rum this morning, but you can meet me on the island for some rum. And we also have the benefit of some very high repeat visitation. And I think that's one of the things that really stands out about the destination. Every survey that we've done over the years, the one reason why people keep coming back is because they always say it's the people. The people are the ones who make the difference. And that's because, you could be out on the street, someone will stop, they'll give you a ride, and before you know it, you're at someone's house sharing a meal, and their family becomes your friend for a lifetime. And specifically with Canadians, Canadians have been coming to Barbados for many, many, many years. And we've seen that they've developed a natural affinity for the destination, that most of them actually have their second homes in Barbados as well. The other thing that really stands out about Barbados is the fact that when you think of the destination in the Caribbean. And I think for most Canadians, when I met them, and I should have prefaced it by saying, so I've only been in Canada for about 17 months. Prior to that, I was the head of the US market. I lived there for 26 years. So it's only been 17 months in Canada, and every time I engage people, the automatic thing is like, oh, Barbados is on my bucket list. I really want to go to Barbados. But there's this perception that you have to be CEO of a company or persons who are at the very top of the ladder to be able to go and experience Barbados. And I want to dispel that myth again this morning. As we go through the segmentation data, you'll realize that Barbados has something for everyone. I think the diverse options of accommodations really sets us apart as well, and it's all across the island that you have to choose from. So for those of you who didn't put your hand up this morning, I want to personally extend an invitation to you to come and experience how life is truly meant to be lived in Barbados, because I always say life was not created in Barbados, it was just perfected there. So I want you to come and master the art of fine living in Barbados. But if we look historically, and I know I would have said for Barbados, Canadians have been coming for a long time. And back in 1979, Canada was Barbados' largest source market. So majority of the persons coming into the destination were from Canada. And it also aligns perfectly with Air Canada being the longest service carrier that have flown to anywhere in the Caribbean. Barbados is the longest serving destination, which is over 75 years that the carrier has been flying to Barbados. So what we've seen is Canadians coming, liking the destination, coming back with their families year over year. But then as the market evolved and we've seen people start to move to different parts of Canada, and obviously as tourism picked up, we saw other markets as well starting to discover Barbados, and they started to come down to the destination. And Canada kind of lost its positioning as being the #1 source market for Barbados. My team will tell you, since I got here 17 months ago, I said, we need to reclaim that position, and I'm going to be counting on all of you to help us to do it. But as the market evolved, we will have seen things change. We will see the type of customer coming to Barbados change as well. And there was a knowledge gap that existed where we want to understand, who is our client now? What are their interests? How do we capture these individuals and share with them the why Barbados? And it's great in tourism, and it's always interesting when I talk to tourism marketing professionals and we talk about, we use these data-driven insights, and we always make sure that when we are planning our marketing plans and so forth, we're looking at the data. And I think it's such a great buzzword that we like to throw around. And, sometimes we do add a little bit of data into our planning, but I think for us as a destination, seeing the actual application of it has really changed the landscape for Barbados in terms of our tourism positioning and in terms of our strength as a destination in being able to maintain a level of consistency in our tourism growth over the years. And I think the critical research needs that we needed to ensure that we stayed ahead of the curve and that we continue to succeed as a destination was really about seeing, what are the changing travel preferences amongst persons who are coming to the destination. We do a really good job at collecting data as a destination. And then, it's what do you do with this data? How do you use this data to inform your marketing strategies, your marketing tactics, and then be able to ensure that you're getting conversion, that you're actually accomplishing results? And that's where Environics came in, because then we were able to ask ourselves, how do we take all this information and mine it in a way that gives us real informed insights that we can actually apply to our marketing strategies? And for me, having lived in the US for so long, I think there was a level of familiarity. I understood the market. There's certain things that I could do because I was very much having my hands on the pulse. But moving to Canada, which was a totally different kind of market for me as an individual, I really had to be focused on how do I use this data, right? The data exists. Yes, it can inform and all that, but how do I personally, in terms of leading my team, apply it to the things that we do to achieve the results that we did? And you'll see later that not only are we using this data in Canada, but we've also been able to expand it across the US and the UK, which are also two of our largest source markets for the destination. So we understood that there are some core groups that we want to continue to grow these visitors, and then there are those that we want to retain. So those persons who are already coming to the destination, they've been coming for years, they've been bringing their families have been coming as well, and we know like this is the Barbados audience. How do we grow and retain these individuals? So we think of, those elite family beachgoers. So those persons who want to come down, in the winter time and they want to spend, a month on the island. Some of them come for 3 months because they want to get away from the frigid temperatures here. But these elite family beachgoers, how do we connect with these individuals? And how are their preferences changing over the years for us to ensure that as these preferences change, that we're ahead of the curve and we're meeting the needs of these individuals, that we're able to communicate with them directly in a way that really speaks to what they're looking for. And then the snowbird retirees. I know I'm ready to be in that category very soon, where I'm retired and I can just go down to the island and enjoy the warm sunshine all year round. But this group of individuals are the ones who are very focused on those unique and quintessential experiences. They're experiential travelers, and they want to really be immersed in the culture. And we've even found amongst those snowbird retirees that when they come to the island, they're still very active. They still want to get out. They still want to be immersing themselves in the culture. They still want to meet the travelers where they're at. And this certainly is within the core group of persons that we're targeting here. And then the short and sweet vacationers. For a very long time, we often think when persons are going to Barbados, they're going to come for 2 weeks, they're coming for 10 days, or they're coming for a longer period. One of the things that we have found over the years, and most certainly since I've been here, is that we've been seeing there's those short and sweet vacationers, persons who have decided, Thursday I'm off, I'm going to fly out to Barbados on Thursday, and I'm going to come back on Monday, and I'm going to have that enriching experience. And then post-pandemic, what we've also found that those persons who have the benefit of either remote work or hybrid working, they will be able to come out. They'll do a little work from the beach. I mean, those views are always perfect. And then they'll come back to Canada and go back to the office as need be. But these core groups have really been where our focus has been as a destination. Like, how do we continue to appeal to these travelers, and how do we keep them coming back? And as we looked at this core group, and then we looked at where the trajectory was for growth out of the Canadian market, we recognized that it was very important that we started to look at who are the opportunity groups, because these are also going to be the groups that would help us to remove the seasonality of the destination. Because typically from November through the end of April, we know everyone is trying to get away from the winter season here in Canada. So it's like, how do we create a balance? And I think this is a challenge that destinations often face, not just in the Caribbean, but globally, where there's the high season and there's a significant amount of persons who are coming to your destination over that period. But then in the low season, it's like, how do we stimulate more traffic? How do we get more people to come and experience our island in the low season? Because that has a significant impact on the economy and on the employment of individuals who work within this industry. And that's where the opportunity groups came in. Understanding who are these people? Are they going to destinations that are similar to Barbados? And how can we capture that audience? And the data has been able to give us some really strong insights on how do we capture these individuals. One of the things, how many of you go to Europe during the summer period? A few of you. Okay, so for those of you one of the things that we found is during summer, lots of Canadians go to the European markets for their vacation experiences. And we had to ask ourselves, how do we capture this market? Barbados has a lot of the things that people go to Europe for, some of the great history and heritage. I mean, when you look back at our history, oldest Jewish synagogue in the Western Hemisphere, located in Barbados. When you look at the history of our churches, I already spoke about rum. When you think of food, when you think of fashion, all these things that persons go to Europe for, we offer, and we offer it without the jet lag and at a fraction of the price. So our strategy was, how do we find these people and how do we communicate effectively to them that you can get a taste of all the things that you love about Europe right inside of this beautiful island called Barbados. So we were able to dig a little deeper, understand where they're getting their information from, so that we can then align our campaigns and our marketing strategies to reach them exactly where they're getting their information. And I'll speak to that a little bit later. But because we have seen the success not just in Canada, we've also recognized that the American market had huge opportunities for the destination as well. And you'll see that there are some similarities in terms of the individuals who are going to the US market, who are coming from the US market into Barbados as a destination. We know where to find them geographically, and then being able to target our message towards these individuals as well. Similarly, we've been looking at how do we find the opportunity groups in the US, and how can we capitalize on all the information that we have to ensure that we have a much more targeted approach to all of the things that we're doing from a marketing perspective. And what does that mean? It means that we can have lower cost in our marketing outreach, because now we're not kind of throwing something at the wall and hoping that it sticks, but we are using the data to inform who these people are, where they are, and how we can reach them in a more targeted way. And that has certainly worked for Barbados. Right now, the US market, having used the application of the segmentation analysis and knowing where to find these individuals, has moved from being a market that was third and fourth in terms of arrivals into the island to being the #1 market for the destination between April and December. And it is on an upward growth trajectory that within the next year possibly will be the #1 market for the destination. And I think being able to utilize the segmentation analysis data has certainly helped the US market in repositioning itself to achieve strong growth. And then the UK market, which for many now is seen as the #1 market for the destination. And this also relates to the shared history of between the UK and the US. So it's obviously a natural fit, but it's still important for us to understand who are the people that are coming from the UK. This is a long haul flight for most of these UK travelers. So it's like, who's coming? Why are they coming? What are they looking for? But then we also have to accept the reality that things are changing. Some of these persons who've been coming to the island for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, who see Barbados as their home away from home, as they're aging, and as some of them are becoming immobile, and they're deciding, we want to stay a little closer to home, even though their children and their grandchildren and so forth are coming to the island now, they're not coming as frequently. Some of them would come as often as 3 or 4 times a year. We're not seeing that as much anymore. So that's where the opportunity target groups came in. How do we kind of shake things up in the UK market that we're not talking to the same customer over and over again, that we're not using the same strategies, that we're not using the I feel or I think that we should do this because this is what has worked 30, 40 years ago. And I don't want to say that some of the things that have worked in the past are now obsolete and that they don't have relevance anymore. But things have changed. So for us, it is how do we attract the new UK traveler? There's been so much immigration happening across the world that we know persons are coming from parts of the diaspora into places like the UK, into places like the US, into places even like right here in Canada, that we can be tapping into who are these people and how are we reaching them. And I think that is something that we have certainly been able to take advantage of when we understand how do we segment our audiences and how do we reach them in a strategic way. So our goal as a destination is really understanding how do we move a lot of these opportunity groups into the core markets for the destination. What are the things that we need to employ as a destination to ensure that we are moving the needle? Because yes, the idea is to grow and to maintain the existing core groups, but how do we move these opportunity groups? How do we communicate with the individuals who are coming for short and sweet vacations for them to come and stay longer? Because when they come and stay longer, from an economic impact perspective, it means they're spending more in the destination. How do we get them to take multiple trips a year as opposed to coming probably once or twice a year. It is really about understanding the nuances of all of these groups, and that has been able to help us to be very, very strategic and very targeted in our approach in our move to getting these individuals into the core groups. One of the things that I've seen in a very short 18 months, and I think it's always great to come and talk about data and how data can inform our strategy, but I actually want to make it a little bit more personalized this morning with you, and it's really speaking to how we actually made it a reality for the destination, the practical application of it. And one of the things that we've seen in a very short window is a big shift in the age range of some of the travelers coming to the destination. For a very long time, you often would have seen it was a 55 plus. That was the audience that was coming to Barbados because they had the time, the wherewithal, and so forth to do so. Now we've seen a shift where we're attracting a much younger professional, a much younger immersive traveler who's looking for that experience. They're more experiential in their approach to selecting a vacation. And we know the Canadians that they like outdoors and they want to get out and experience more. So for us, one of the things that we've done was how do we now target our messaging around the things that Barbados has to offer. For those of you who saw the video when you came in, you would have recognized there was a lot more than sun, sea, and sand. Because that's what Barbados offers. And if we look geographically, we go out to the West Coast. There are a lot of persons out there interested in surfing. Barbados is the surfing capital of the Caribbean. So people who have an interest in that, they're coming down to the destination because we've been able to tailor our message specifically to them. Persons who like F1 they go down to Montreal every year to the F1, they travel around for it. Barbados has a big rally season. We've had the Lewis Hamiltons, the Ken Blocks, and so forth coming and racing in Barbados at Bushy Park. These are unique attributes that we have as a destination that we certainly have been able to use to position in the minds of travelers who have those kinds of interests that Barbados is the place for you. So we've really been able to take a practical approach in our marketing and in our strategies to speak specifically to these individuals. So it was really about how do we increase visitors during these summer months, which is typically a slower period for the destination. I would have spoken to the idea of saying to people, you're going to Europe, you're spending a lot of money there, you can come to Barbados without the jet lag, like I said, and just enjoy these same things that you're looking for in Europe. We offer them as well. How do we leverage the segmentation to prioritize these groups, to grow their visitation during the summer months? And then what are some of the strategies that we would employ? How are we reaching people? We know that in the summertime, Canadians are outside, and that's something we'll say in the Caribbean, like I'm outside, like we outside, you and your people are outside. And we know Canadians are outside in the summer months, whether they're attending festivals and events and so forth. So we decided as we move during the summer months to drive business even prior to summer, because naturally we want to ensure that we are speaking to persons about coming to Barbados in the summer. But we've also recognized that there are a lot of last-minute decision-making happening around travel during summer to the destination. So we've really amplified our presence that says to people, come to Barbados, say hello to Barbados in the summertime. So we've certainly had a significant amount of out-of-home activations that we've done. So the whole idea is about meeting people where they're at. So you might be sitting in this room, yes, you love the idea of going on a vacation, whether it's alone, with family, with friends. We know you love the idea of going on a vacation. But maybe you're an individual who are into festivals and events. You're going out to festivals and events throughout the year. We want to reach you there so that when you go to this festival event, you're seeing Barbados. You might be a culinary enthusiast, so you're going out to culinary festivals or you're going out to restaurants. What are the restaurants that we can align ourselves with that we are able now to reach individuals like yourself? What are the platforms like Open Table that we can establish partnerships with so that when you go to pick your restaurant, you're seeing Barbados as top of mind? How do we ensure that every single thing that we do, that we're giving people different touch points? So if you're a culinary person, and you are looking into booking a reservation, you might see Barbados pop up at Open Table. And then you might end up at a restaurant that might be a Mark McEwen restaurant, for example, where we've had a long partnership with the group. So maybe you go to one of his restaurants and then you see on that particular week, there's a Barbadian chef that is the featured chef for that week. So you're getting some influences of Barbadian cuisine in that menu. And then you open a magazine and you're seeing Barbados again. So we're connecting you to all of the dots across different touch points. And the segmentation data has been able to tell us very clearly where to find the individuals that we're looking for, what are some of their interests, and then we're able then to apply it in our marketing outreach. When we're doing our digital marketing, we're actually uploading a lot of the insights from the segmentator data analysis. We're uploading that into our platforms so that we're certainly having a more targeted approach to reaching the audience. It gives us the opportunity to measure it in a more focused way as well, because it's great to do advertising. I mean, it's always great to see a billboard on a screen, but the reality is like, how do you know that you're getting results? How are you measuring these things that you're doing? And I think it begins by first understanding who the people are, targeting your message towards it, and then having the measurement tools in place to ensure that you're seeing the results. And I can tell you, for Barbados, we've certainly seen the results. Last year, the end of 2024, we closed our year 14% up over the previous year, and we certainly also exceeded our pre-COVID arrivals to the destination. So very clearly, we were able to see that the strategies that we were employing, that those strategies worked. And I can tell you from the time I got here, it was being able to lean in to the segmentation data to be able to inform what we do. We know some budgets shrunk in a post-pandemic world. And the one thing that I never understand, and those of you who are in this room who are part of tourism, they're always looking for ways to shrink our budgets, right? We're doing so much. We're bringing people to the destination. They're like, oh, we're going to cut your budget here. So it's really about how do you do more with less? And I think the data has been able to help us to understand how to do more with less. So from a destination perspective, this is where we're going next. And you would remember I said the goal is to get back the Canadian market to #1 for the destination. So it's really about how do we have a deeper penetration? How is our messaging more personalized, right? How are we creating itineraries that are more dynamic, that speaks specifically to what the persons that we're trying to reach, what they're looking for? How do we keep our core groups engaged? And more importantly, how do we get these opportunity groups excited about the destination? And because of the success that we've seen, we're not just stopping at the US, Canada, and the UK, which are our largest source markets for the destination. But how can we use this application in the Latin American markets? How can we use it in Europe? And how can we use it in the Caribbean? How are we targeting persons by niche segments? So like, what are their interests? If it's culinary, if it's romance. I mean, typically when people think of romance, for a long time they think of a destination wedding and they think of a honeymoon, right? No pressure to the gentleman in the room, but what about the just because, right? What about just taking that special someone away on an experience just because you love them? You know, I can promise you it will score you a lot of points, so you should consider it. But what about the person who wants to propose? It doesn't have to be in a restaurant or, you know, going on top of a mountain and proposing, but what about taking them to Barbados, getting into the Atlantic submarine, going underwater, and when that submarine sits on the bank of the ocean and they look outside and they see a diver with a sign saying, "Will you marry me?" I mean, like, how romantic is that? So it is really about how do we look at the interesting ways from a niche perspective of telling our story and really being able to capture the interest and the imagination of those travelers. How do we integrate more predictive insights, like in terms of the booking and how we look at the data, the spend, and so forth? How are we integrating that more so that we can anticipate the demand? Are we looking forward and seeing, okay, where is the destination for the next 6 months? Are there gaps that we need to ensure that we're working now to fill? How do we as a destination develop the product that is continuing to meet the needs of today's traveler? I spoke about a lot of travelers who have been coming for many years becoming immobile, right? From a product perspective, are we ensuring that we have a fully accessible destination as well? Are we ensuring that persons who are coming to the destination and they're doing remote work, that we have the capabilities that they can work comfortably without disruption because of the kind of services that we offer on the destination? All these things challenge us to be innovative as a destination, but it is really about understanding first and foremost who your customer is. And I think I can't stress that enough, because I think we say it so often, oh, it's about knowing who your customer is, and we know who our customer is. But it's obviously costs less to maintain the customer that you have and to maintain that core group. But if you're looking to expand your reach, if you're looking for growth, it is really about where are the opportunities. How can you maximize those opportunities? And how can you continue to track and monitor the outcomes of the segments that you've been targeting? How are you able to look and see, are we seeing more growth in the romance niche because that's recession-proof? People still want to get married, even regardless of what's happening around them. Are we seeing growth in the culinary world? And I think for us as a destination, that is where we've seen some of our largest growth, is in the culinary segment, because people want to come and experience the cuisine, not just from a taste perspective, but also from a cultural perspective. We see that that's something that's been growing significantly. So I think when we look forward as a destination as to where we're going and what are the things that we need to do, it really has been rooted in the fact that we have to make sure that we are taking a very targeted and systematic approach to how we use the insights that we receive from the data, from the segmentation analysis. How do we apply that practically? How do we move from saying, I feel and I think, and we've done this before, and this is what happened when we do it? How do we move from that perspective to being able to say definitively, this is who our audience is, this is where we can reach them, this is a new audience that we have not considered, but when we look at a similar destination, they're attracting this audience. Why aren't we cutting into that pie of that competitive destination? Why aren't we taking advantage of this opportunity and being able to really ensure that you're making that a new and strong component of your marketing outreach? I've said to my team when I got here into Canada, I'm like, the rest of the Caribbean, they're going to have to be chasing Barbados, because we're not looking at the Caribbean as our main competitor. I think now travelers are traveling all over the world, right? They can go to Asia and get beach. You know, they can go to other places in the world and get beach, Europe and get beach. So it's really about how do we understand the value proposition of Barbados and ensure that everything that we do, that we are leveraging that value proposition and that we're connecting with our audience. We're giving them an emotional connection to Barbados. So I want to thank you for indulging me this morning. It was certainly a pleasure to be here. I hope that the few minutes that I've had with you, that I was able to crystallize for you not just the importance of the segmentation analysis and how that has helped us as a destination, but that you were able to get at least a little understanding of how we use this information to grow our market share. And I can tell you confidently that based on our current trajectory, that 2025, we certainly expect to finish ahead of 2024. So I think that in itself shows that we're continuing to achieve the growth that we need for the destination out of the Canadian market. So as I conclude, I have one more ask of you today, that as you continue through this conference and you go home, talk to that person at home and say, you know what? We've been vacationing at home, we've been doing those staycations and all that, but I think I want to go and experience this place called Barbados. If cricket is your thing, come on, let's go and learn to play cricket. Let's go and see it. Let's go and witness where history happened in the World Cup. I mean, it really is an opportunity to say to that person, let's go. let's go immerse ourselves in this experience. And those of you who are in the room who are not married, and you're thinking of that proposal, I've given you an idea this morning, and there's so many more where that came from. So once again, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure being here with you. Welcome, Stan, back. Thanks, Stan. Okay.
Thank you very much, Eusi, and also I feel very inadequate around my proposal to my wife recently right now. Didn't go down in a submarine, that's for darn sure. I know we're past time here, and I know folks are thinking about lunch. If you do want to jump out for lunch, we've got lunch out in the main area there. If you do want to stick around, we're happy to have a couple of questions. Eusi can stick around. He'll be around as well in the hallway. But if you do have some questions right now, we're happy to take a couple. But if you do want to get out for lunch, feel free to jump out as well.
I'll take up on that cricket analogy because I'm a cricket fan and my wife hates cricket. So I will try to figure it out some way to bring her to Barbados. My question to you is, I think you talked a lot about experience and product development. And how do you connect with your tour operators to make sure they also understand that their standards are meeting when you're trying to bring people to Barbados, it meeting that standards of your visitors, because it's a pretty big undertaking. And how do you collaborate with them? We learned about collaboration in the other presentation. If you can kind of share some of the best practices, I think that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a great question, because that was one of the challenges that I faced when I moved here, where there was a perception that it was an all-inclusive market. Canadians love all-inclusive, that they want to travel and go on vacation and go to an all-inclusive, and that they love 4 destinations which remain nameless today. And for me, coming from a place where I often heard a similar course of discussion around all-inclusives and this is what they like, I had to really change the mindset, and I think it's really about collaboration. So I actually spent a lot of time sitting with our tour operator partners and not just telling them, but Barbados is different and you don't need an all-inclusive for Barbados, but I was able to go and show them the data. I spent time saying to them, I hear what you're saying. I understand you're saying that this is where the focus is, but I can tell you, when you look at the Barbados customer, 73% of the Barbados customer is not staying at an all-inclusive. So if you're continuing to focus all your efforts around this particular group of individuals, you're going to have a challenge. I was able to show them, I went back 20 years, and I said, look at the progression over the last 20 years and what the data is saying, right? Because you are not diversifying your product, because you are not offering more experiential things in your product offerings, look at what's happening. A significant amount of your client base is now booking airline direct. They're no longer coming to the tour operator. They're going straight to the airline, and then they're booking everything else on their own. You're losing market share. So it was really about first getting to the persons at the top who are kind of controlling the strategy and showing them the hard data of where the course and the trajectory of the business is going, where their opportunity lies, and if they don't wake up quickly, that they might find themselves without the kind of market share that they had. Secondly, I also started to engage around their reservations teams, and I said to them, I want to be doing more training with your reservations teams. I want to get your reservation teams down to the island so they can experience it firsthand, so that they're not just doing something because this is how they've always done it, but it's really about eliminating for them, wow, and this is something we hear all the time, wow, I never thought about it like that. I never realized that Barbados offered all of this. And I think those were 2 of the strategies that we've seen that has really worked, showing them the hard data that contradicts what they feel or what they think is what Canadians needed. And secondly, being able to really get to the source, the person on the end of the phone who's speaking to, maybe it might be a travel agent, it might be a person who's speaking directly to a consumer, and really being able to show them this is what you need to be selling and not what you think in your mind you need to be selling. And the final thing is pushing back when they send you those marketing plans, and it's the same old, when they send you the verbiage, and you look at it and you see, wait a minute, but this could be anywhere in the world. This doesn't resonate. And I would push back. And I would say, this doesn't speak to the uniqueness of Barbados. We could remove Barbados and put any other island here. Go rework it. Do something different. And I think having done that over the past few months when I first came to Canada, now you see a shift in the way that they're thinking. You're seeing a shift in their approach. When they send me stuff now, it's not going back. When I first came, 90% of the time it was going back. And then I said to them, I need to speak to your marketing team. I need to train them so that they understand the Barbados value proposition. And I think that is something that was able to help. Sharing assets. They were using imagery that they were using 10 years ago. No, we need to make sure that you're refreshing your assets as a tour operator partner. And I think once you keep the pressure and once they realize that they're losing business and you can show that, I think it really helps your case in getting them to change their mindsets, because that was certainly one of the difficult tasks that I had. And I did it face to face. I ensured that I went and I met with them face to face. It was not hiding behind the camera of a Zoom or Teams, but I went and I engaged them face to face. When I did activities in market, I invited them. I'm like, come along with us. Come and have a presence here. We're doing an event. We're going to set a booking station up. I want you to come and actually man this booking station. And one of the things you will see is that people are consuming information differently. People are making decisions a lot more different to how they would have in the past, and that has helped to change the mindset. Thank you.
Doing some marketing for your tourism, but then there is an activation of that marketing campaigns that you carried out. So you're not the same channel, right? Because you do the marketing, but then the actual activation or actual engagement takes place at your tourism partners. So how do you measure those feedbacks of what your marketing did actually for you?
So we are certainly part of the entire process. So yes, we'll do the marketing and so forth, but we then have a sales team that's very integrated into making these things happen through the activations. We have very strong call to actions that we're able to look back and see, okay, we have got X amount of results. Our participation in this event. So we've done an event which is more like a lifestyle culinary application activation, for example, which we've been promoting for a long time, the whole idea of culinary and Barbados being a destination as more of a lifestyle destination. And when we did the physical activation and we brought our partner along, we actually had one of our operators there with us, and they actually did on-site bookings, and then they had a code, a booking code that was shared with those individuals both on-site, and then we also did some email blasts subsequent to the event, and then we're able to go back and track it. How much conversion did we get from this code? How many actual conversion did we get on the spot? So we're very much integrated at every single part of the strategies that we implement, because we want to make sure that we're seeing whether or not these things work and be able to have some tangible data to support whether or not it worked.
Question.
Okay.
So in looking, I'm in a 20-year love affair at Barbados.
Sorry?
I'm in a 20-year love affair at Barbados.
Okay, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. And in looking at the presentation, I was actually quite interested in the segmentation and not at calling out, let's call it the expat, the Bajans who have left Barbados and are coming back, especially because I know that Barbados is currently doing the year of return. So it's just interesting to see, like, is that a segment that is maybe not just in Canada, not one, or like just want to understand a little bit more?
Well, thank you for your 20-year love affair with Barbados. If you've done more than 25 trips to the island, please let me know so we can welcome you to our 25 and over club. Okay, so let's talk about that after. But I think that's a really great question, and it's twofold. So first of all, the diaspora who's living here in Canada, that is a very huge target market for us. One of the things that we've always seen from a diaspora perspective is we keep them engaged. So we've launched the Barbados Family and Friends program. So if you're Barbadian by birth or by choice, we found there are a lot of Barbadians by choice, like yourself. So we have been very intentional in our outreach to these individuals. So we apply different strategies to reach in that particular market. Yes, it is this big year is regathering and getting people to come back home to the destination. So we capture that as one of our segments, but because those individuals have a natural affinity to the destination, we're very strategic in how we outreach to them, that we're saying to them now, yes, you might have family in the island. Instead of coming home and spending time with family, take a weekend and go stay at a hotel or resort on the island. These are the new activities that are happening on the island. We want you to go and experience these activities as well. We have special incentives that we offer as well to our diaspora coming home. Now, for the expats, so we treat to that a little bit different, because those persons who are coming and moving and taking up residence in Barbados, for example, unfortunately, they don't count as a visitor arrival because now they're going to be resident in the island. So we launched a program that was saying to individuals, come and work remotely from Barbados, called the Barbados Welcome Stamp. And we've seen that grow exponentially. We've seen a lot of Canadian companies, their CEO might have come down during the pandemic and did the Barbados Welcome Stamp, and then headquartered the company in Barbados, or headquartered certain divisions of the company in Barbados. So we've seen a lot of that. Unfortunately, they don't count as a visitor, but we've still been able to be very intentional in how we do outreach to those individuals as well, because naturally we want to continue to grow that program. And that was introduced as part of the one of our responses to the pandemic, but now we've seen it continue to grow globally in terms of persons who are coming and making Barbados their home away from home. So yes, to your question, there are segments that we focus on, but we just kind of treat to those segments differently. Thank you.
Okay, so on that note, I just want to thank Eusi one more time.
Thank you so much for having me.